Picture this. It's 1957, and you're standing barefoot on the warm sands of Daytona Beach. The salty ocean breeze mixes with the sharp scent of gasoline, while thousands of spectators crowd the shoreline, waiting to witness America's newest performance legend prove itself. Every conversation is about one machine, Chevrolet's brand new Corvette. Low, sleek, futuristic, and wrapped in shimmering fiberglass, it looks like the American dream finally has four wheels. People whisper that nothing built in Detroit can touch it. The Corvette isn't just a sports car anymore. It's a symbol of American engineering, confidence, and speed. The driver climbs inside, grips the steering wheel, and blips the throttle. The V8 roars across the beach, echoing off the ocean as the crowd erupts with applause. Then something unexpected appears at the starting line. A plain silver four-door sedan rolls quietly onto sand. No flashy paint, no racing stripes, no dramatic exhaust. It looks like the kind of car your parents would drive to church on Sunday or park outside the neighborhood grocery store. People begin laughing. Some even shake their heads. Surely the sleepy family sedan isn't about to challenge America's newest sports car. But here's the thing about history. The moments that change everything rarely arrive wearing expensive suits. Sometimes they show up looking completely ordinary. The starter raises a flag. Every conversation stops. Every camera points toward the two cars. Even the ocean seems to fall silent for a split second. The flag drops, tires dig into the sand, engines explode with power, and within seconds, everyone watching realizes they've underestimated the wrong car. That humble silver sedan rockets ahead, leaving the Corvette scrambling for traction. The cheering crowd suddenly goes quiet, replaced by stunned disbelief. It sounds impossible today, but this wasn't some lucky accident. It was the opening shot of one of Detroit's greatest hidden battles, a secret horsepower war that changed American performance forever. To understand why that shocking race happened, we need to rewind just a few years. Because the truth is, America's first sports car wasn't born as a champion. It was born with a serious identity crisis. When Chevrolet introduced the Corvette in 1953, people couldn't believe their eyes. It looked like something from the future, with flowing curves, gleaming chrome, and a lightweight fiberglass body unlike anything Detroit had built before. From the outside, it promised excitement. It promised speed. It promised America could finally build a sports car worthy of competing with Europe's finest machines. But beneath that beautiful body was a disappointing surprise. Instead of a roaring V8, Chevrolet installed a modest six-cylinder engine paired with a two-speed automatic transmission. On paper, it sounded respectable. On the road, it felt anything but. Drivers quickly realized the Corvette looked much faster than it actually was. Magazine testers weren't exactly impressed. Reaching 60 miles per hour took around 11 long seconds, an eternity for a car wearing the badge of a sports machine. Today, that number might sound painfully slow. But even in the mid-1950s, plenty of people expected much more from America's flagship performance car. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While everyone focused on flashy sports cars, Detroit's biggest sedans were quietly becoming far more powerful than anyone realized. These weren't race cars. They were family cruisers, executive sedans, and comfortable highway machines built for long road trips, not drag strips. Yet hidden beneath those enormous hoods were increasingly sophisticated overhead valve V8 engines, producing more power every single year. Engineers across Detroit had discovered a dangerous formula. Bigger engines were becoming cheaper to build, more reliable to own, and surprisingly easy to fit into ordinary cars. They hadn't set out to start a revolution, but every extra horsepower they added was quietly laying the foundation for an underground performance war that would soon catch the entire automotive world by surprise. The first company bold enough to test that theory wasn't General Motors or Ford. It was American Motors Corporation, a brand famous for practicality, not performance. And that made what happened next even more unbelievable. Back then, AMC built cars for families who wanted reliability, good fuel economy, and affordable transportation. Speed wasn't part of the company's reputation, or at least that's what everyone believed. But inside AMC's engineering department, a different conversation was happening. They had begun asking one dangerous question. What if an ordinary family sedan had the heart of a performance machine? Instead of designing an entirely new sports car, they chose a far cheaper and far smarter solution. They would simply transform the car nobody expected. The engineers selected the compact Rambler. It was lighter than most full-size sedans, easy to handle, and completely overlooked by performance enthusiasts. Then came the part that sounded almost ridiculous. They prepared to install a powerful V8 originally designed to move much larger and heavier automobiles. By every conventional rule, it shouldn't have worked. The engine looked almost too large for the car, and many believed the project would never leave the prototype stage. But the engineers refused to stop there. They upgraded the breathing, strengthened key components, and tuned the engine to deliver far more than respectable family car performance. From the outside, almost nothing gave away its true personality. It still looked polite, practical, and perfectly suited for the daily commute. That was exactly the point. The greatest surprise isn't a fast car that looks fast. It's the one nobody even considers a threat, until it's already disappearing into the distance. Soon, this quiet little sedan would arrive at Daytona Beach and rewrite everything Americans thought they knew about horsepower. And once the green flag dropped, Detroit's biggest secret would finally be impossible to hide. When the Rambler Rebel finally arrived at Daytona Speed Week, almost nobody expected history to be made. To most spectators, it looked like another sensible sedan that had wandered into the wrong event. There were no dramatic hood scoops, no racing decals, no roaring crowd surrounding it. Its greatest advantage was that it looked completely harmless, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath that modest hood was an engine capable of delivering performance few Americans had ever experienced in a four-door sedan. Engineers had carefully balanced power with reliability. This wasn't a stripped-down race car. It was designed to survive everyday driving while secretly outperforming purpose-built sports cars. As race officials prepared the starting area, whispers began spreading through the crowd. Some mechanics had heard rumors that this ordinary sedan was hiding something extraordinary. Most people dismissed those rumors immediately. After all, how could a practical family car possibly challenge America's fastest new sports machines? Then the driver climbed into the Rebel with complete confidence. There was no showmanship, no dramatic gestures, just quiet certainty that the car would do all the talking. The engine fired to life with a deep, confident rumble. It wasn't the loudest sound on the beach, but it carried a tone that experienced racers immediately recognized. Across the starting line, the Corvette looked every bit like the favorite, low, sleek, and born for attention. It carried the weight of America's performance reputation. But races aren't won by reputation. They're won by traction, torque, and what happens in the first few seconds after the green flag falls. The starter raised his flag once again. Every conversation stopped. Cameras focused. Even veteran racers leaned forward, sensing that something unusual was about to unfold. And when the signal came, the Rambler exploded off the line with shocking force, proving in a single breathtaking launch that Detroit's biggest performance secret had finally escaped into the open. For a brief moment, nobody reacted. The crowd simply stared, trying to process what they had just witnessed. A plain family sedan had launched harder than America's most celebrated sports car. What looked impossible was actually the result of careful engineering. The Rebel wasn't relying on flashy styling. It was relying on raw torque delivered exactly when it mattered most. Unlike many early sports cars that struggled for traction, the Rebel planted its weight and hooked into the sand with remarkable confidence. Every foot it gained forced spectators to rethink everything they believed about performance. Maybe speed wasn't about flashy bodies after all. Maybe it was hiding under the most ordinary sheet metal in America. The finish wasn't just another race result. It became a statement that echoed through Detroit's engineering departments almost overnight. Engineers from competing manufacturers paid close attention. They realized a dangerous lesson had just been taught. Lightweight cars with big V8s could embarrass far more expensive machines. Suddenly, horsepower wasn't just a luxury feature anymore. It became a weapon in a growing battle for bragging rights on American streets. Car buyers were changing too. Young Americans no longer wanted transportation alone. They wanted excitement every time they pressed the accelerator. Manufacturers quickly noticed a shift. Performance had become more than engineering. It had become marketing identity and pure competition. The horsepower race was officially underway, and every company wanted to build the next giant killer hiding inside an ordinary family car. Before long, buyers discovered that the smartest performance cars weren't always the most expensive ones. Sometimes the fastest machine was the one everyone overlooked. And while AMC had fired the opening shot, Detroit's biggest manufacturers were already preparing their answer. What came next would push American horsepower into an entirely new era. The success of the Rambler Rebel didn't just surprise Detroit. It challenged every assumption about what a performance car was supposed to be. And Chevrolet understood the message immediately. If America's sports cars were going to stay on top, they couldn't rely on good looks alone anymore. They needed real horsepower that could back up every advertisement and every headline. But Chevrolet's response wasn't limited to the Corvette. Behind closed doors, the company had another idea, one that street racers will remember for decades. Instead of creating an entirely new performance model, Chevrolet looked at one of the most ordinary cars in its lineup and asked a simple question: what happens if we give this car far more power than anyone expects? The answer became the Chevrolet Delray, a car so plain that most buyers barely noticed it sitting on the dealership floor. Taxi companies liked it. Traveling salesmen appreciated it. Families bought it because it was affordable. Nobody imagined it could become one of the quickest sedans in America. Then Chevrolet quietly added a box to the order sheet that completely transformed the car's personality. Most customers never noticed it. Enthusiasts never forgot it. Under the hood, buyers could install the brand new 348 cubic inch turbo thrust V8, a powerhouse built to deliver effortless acceleration and unmistakable authority. For drivers willing to check every performance option, Chevrolet offered an even more aggressive setup, turning an everyday commuter into a genuine street predator. From the outside, almost nothing gave the game away. It still wore simple trim, modest wheels, and an appearance that practically begged people to underestimate it. Soon, unsuspecting sports car owners would learn an unforgettable lesson. In the late 1950s, the most dangerous machine at the stoplight wasn't always the one that looked the fastest. It was the one nobody saw coming. Word traveled fast through America's car culture. Mechanics talked about it. Street racers whispered about it. Somehow, the cheapest-looking Chevrolet had become one of the hottest topics in performance circles. The beauty of the Delray wasn't just its speed. It was its invisibility. Most people never gave it a second glance until it disappeared into the distance. At stoplights across America, confidence became a dangerous mistake. Drivers judged cars by chrome, tail fins, and price tags. They rarely looked beneath the hood. That assumption created the perfect trap, because by the time the light turned green, appearances no longer mattered. Only horsepower did. The Delray lunged forward with surprising urgency, its powerful V8 delivering instant torque, while the lightweight body wasted almost none of it. Drivers who expected an easy victory suddenly found themselves staring at shrinking taillights. Their expensive sports cars weren't broken. They had simply underestimated the wrong opponent. Stories like these spread far beyond racetracks. Gas stations, diners, and drive-ins became the social media of the 1950s, where unbelievable races turned into unforgettable legends. Some stories became exaggerated over time, but one fact remained consistent. Ordinary-looking family cars were becoming much faster than anyone thought possible. Chevrolet wasn't the only company paying attention. Every major manufacturer realized that buyers suddenly care about something they couldn't always see: hidden performance. The horsepower race was no longer about building one great sports car. It had evolved into a competition to make every lineup faster than the last. Then another manufacturer decided it wasn't enough to compete. They wanted to shock the industry all over again with a family car that looked even more ordinary, but packed even more muscle. And when Plymouth unveiled its newest creation, Americans realized the sleeper car revolution had only just begun. Plymouth had spent years building dependable transportation, not dream machines. Families trusted the brand because it was practical, affordable, and predictable. Performance wasn't part of its identity until everything changed almost overnight. The company knew it couldn't win by simply copying its competitors. Instead, Plymouth decided to create a car that blended elegance with unexpected power, giving buyers the best of both worlds. The result was breathtaking. Long, low body lines, dramatic tail fins, and shimmering gold accents made the new Plymouth Fury look like it belonged in tomorrow instead of today. People admired its beauty first, but beauty wasn't the real surprise. Hidden beneath that stylish sheet metal was an engine ready to rewrite Plymouth's reputation forever. Engineers equipped the Fury with one of the strongest V8 combinations Plymouth had ever offered, giving everyday driver performance that had once belonged only to dedicated race cars. The numbers immediately grabbed attention. But what truly impressed drivers was how effortlessly the Fury delivered its power, accelerating with confidence instead of chaos. For families, it remained comfortable enough for weekend road trips. For enthusiasts, it became something entirely different, a luxury cruiser that could surprise almost anything at a stoplight. It was another reminder that Detroit had discovered an irresistible formula. Hide enormous performance beneath ordinary expectations, and let the road reveal the truth. Competitors watched carefully. Every unexpected victory by a sleeper car increased the pressure to build something even faster, even smarter, and even more difficult to underestimate. The horsepower war had become impossible to ignore. Every new model year brought larger engines, bolder engineering, and higher expectations from American drivers. But while Chevrolet and Plymouth battled for headlines, another manufacturer quietly built a machine that would earn a legendary reputation among those who knew where to look. Its name was the Golden Hawk, and despite wearing the badge of a struggling company, it carried enough power to challenge the biggest names in American performance. The next chapter would prove that reputation means nothing once the race begins. Studebaker wasn't supposed to be leading the performance conversation. By the mid-1950s, the company was fighting for survival, while Detroit's biggest manufacturers dominated headlines. Yet sometimes, the hungriest competitor builds the boldest machine. Instead of trying to outspend Chevrolet or Ford, Studebaker searched for another advantage. If they couldn't build the biggest company, they would build one of the most unforgettable cars. Their answer came through an unlikely partnership. A powerful Packard-built V8 found its way beneath the hood of Studebaker's sleek Hawk body, creating a combination few people saw coming. The result wasn't just powerful, it was beautifully balanced. A relatively lightweight coupe suddenly possessed the strength of a much larger luxury car. Behind the wheel, drivers immediately noticed something different. The throttle felt eager, the acceleration relentless, and the car surged forward with effortless authority. Magazine testers praised its remarkable power-to-weight ratio. Instead of relying on brute size alone, the Golden Hawk combined intelligent engineering with serious muscle. It wasn't the loudest car in America, and it certainly wasn't the most famous. But among enthusiasts, the Golden Hawk quietly earned the respect that only genuine performance can command. By now, a clear pattern had emerged across Detroit. Ordinary expectations were being shattered by extraordinary engineering hidden beneath familiar bodywork. Every unexpected victory added more pressure on America's sports cars. The days of relying on stylish looks alone were rapidly coming to an end. Chevrolet understood the danger better than anyone. If the Corvette was going to remain America's performance icon, it needed more than beauty. It needed to become unquestionably faster than everything else on the road. That determination would lead to one of the most important breakthroughs in American automotive history, a technological leap that finally transformed the Corvette from an attractive sports car into a true performance legend. Chevrolet's engineers knew they couldn't afford another embarrassment. Every unexpected defeat by an ordinary sedan was slowly chipping away at the Corvette's reputation. The next version had to silence every critic. Their mission wasn't simply to build a faster engine. They wanted to prove that America could create a sports car capable of standing alongside the finest performance machines in the world. Everything started with Chevrolet's small block V8. Compact, lightweight, and remarkably adaptable, it had already shown enormous potential. Now the engineers believed they could unlock something extraordinary. Instead of settling for incremental improvements, they increased displacement, refined airflow, and chased an ambitious performance target that many thought was impossible. Then came one of the boldest decisions in Chevrolet history. They introduced a technology rarely seen outside serious racing machines: mechanical fuel injection. At a time when carburetors ruled the automotive world, fuel injection sounded almost futuristic. It promised sharper throttle response, greater efficiency, and more precise power delivery. Many people doubted it would work on a production car. The system was more complex, more expensive, and far more difficult to fine-tune than anything Chevrolet had attempted before. But Chevrolet wasn't chasing convenience anymore. They were chasing respect. Every extra horsepower represented another step toward reclaiming the Corvette's place at the top. When testing finally began, expectations were high. Engineers gathered along the proving grounds, eager to discover whether years of development had truly changed everything. The driver pressed the accelerator, and the response was immediate. The engine revved with a crispness that earlier Corvettes had never delivered. As the Corvette charged down the straightaway, stopwatches revealed something astonishing. The numbers weren't just better. They were entering an entirely different league. For the first time, Chevrolet had built a Corvette that truly deserved its legendary reputation. But the real test still lay ahead, because proving yourself on a closed track is one thing. Proving yourself against Detroit's fastest sleepers is another. News of the Corvette's transformation spread quickly through the automotive world. Magazine editors, racers, and enthusiasts all wanted the answer to one question. Had Chevrolet finally built the sports car America had been waiting for? The only way to find out was through independent testing. On open roads and proving grounds, journalists prepared their stopwatches, eager to separate marketing promises from measurable performance. The launch was immediate and purposeful. Unlike earlier models, this Corvette wasted almost no time finding its rhythm. Every press of the throttle produced clean, confident acceleration. When the numbers were recorded, they stunned even experienced testers. Chevrolet had finally crossed a line that many believed was still years away. The Corvette now accelerated with the confidence expected from a true sports car, proving that advanced engineering, not just larger engines, could redefine performance. More importantly, Chevrolet had restored something numbers alone couldn't measure. They had restored credibility. The Corvette was no longer admired only for its looks. It had earned genuine respect. But Detroit's horsepower war was already moving faster than anyone expected. Every breakthrough inspired competitors to chase something even bigger, even bolder. Manufacturers soon realized that performance wasn't just selling cars. It was building legends. Every victory on the street or the track created stories that spread across the entire country. By the end of the decade, horsepower had become America's favorite language. Every advertisement promised more power. Every showroom highlighted bigger engines. And every buyer wanted to own tomorrow's legend today. Looking back, it's remarkable how quickly everything changed. Just a few years earlier, ordinary family sedans were considered slow and predictable. Now they were rewriting the rules of American performance. Without those unlikely sleeper cars, the Corvette might never have evolved into the icon we celebrate today. Competition forced innovation, and innovation changed automotive history forever. The greatest revolutions rarely begin with the obvious hero. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary-looking family sedan that dares to challenge the impossible and wins. By the end of the 1950s, the horsepower war had accomplished something nobody expected. It didn't just create faster cars. It completely changed the way Americans thought about performance. Speed was no longer reserved for expensive sports cars. It had become available to anyone who knew what to order. Walk into almost any dealership, and hidden somewhere on the order sheet was the opportunity to transform an ordinary commuter into a genuine performance machine. The secret wasn't always sitting on the showroom floor. It was hiding inside the option list. That idea changed everything. Buyers no longer judge a car only by its appearance. They started asking smarter questions. Which engine does it have? Which transmission? What axle ratio did you order? A new kind of enthusiast was born. Someone who appreciated engineering more than chrome, performance more than prestige, and capability more than appearance. Those enthusiasts gave birth to a culture that still exists today. The sleeper car, a machine built to surprise rather than impress, earning respect only after the accelerator hits the floor. Even decades later, the formula hasn't changed. Hide serious performance beneath an ordinary body, and people will underestimate you every single time. That's why these forgotten family cars deserve far more credit than they usually receive. They didn't simply win a few races. They forced an entire industry to evolve faster than anyone imagined. Without them, the Corvette might never become an icon. Without them, Detroit might have delayed its greatest engineering breakthroughs. Competition didn't just improve cars, it accelerated innovation itself. History often remembers the winners standing under the brightest spotlight. But sometimes the real heroes are the quiet challengers who force everyone else to become better. So the next time you walk through a classic car show, don't rush straight toward the sports cars. Take a closer look at the ordinary sedans parked quietly in the corner. One of them might have once embarrassed the fastest machine on the road. Because the greatest secret of Detroit's golden age wasn't hidden inside a glamorous two-seat sports car. It was hidden beneath the hood of America's most ordinary family sedans, proving once and for all that true performance has never been about appearances. It's always been about what's underneath. The story didn't end when the decade ended. In many ways, the late 1950s had only written the opening chapter. The lessons learned during those years would echo through every American performance car built for generations to come. Engineers now understood something they hadn't fully appreciated before. Raw horsepower mattered, but balancing weight, traction, gearing, and reliability mattered just as much. That philosophy transformed how performance cars were designed. Instead of chasing numbers alone, manufacturers began building complete performance packages. The influence stretched far beyond Chevrolet. Ford, Chrysler, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Dodge all accelerated their own performance programs, refusing to be left behind. Within only a few years, America entered what many enthusiasts still call the golden age of horsepower. Bigger engines, stronger drivetrains, and bolder engineering became the industry's new normal. The remarkable part is that this revolution wasn't started by million-dollar race teams or exotic European manufacturers. It was sparked by ordinary engineers solving ordinary problems with extraordinary ideas. Those engineers proved that innovation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's hidden inside an option sheet, tucked beneath an ordinary hood, waiting for someone curious enough to discover it. That spirit of hidden performance still lives today. Modern sleeper cars continue following the exact blueprint created by those forgotten machines of the 1950s. Even today, experienced enthusiasts know never to judge a car by its paint, its trim, or its badges alone, because appearances have fooled people before, and they still do. Every generation creates its own legends, but the DNA of nearly every American sleeper can be traced back to those fearless engineers who dare to challenge conventional thinking. Their greatest achievement wasn't simply building faster automobiles. It was changing the mindset of an entire industry, proving that innovation often comes from the places nobody expects. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson hidden inside Detroit's horsepower revolution. Never underestimate the ordinary, because history has a habit of hiding its greatest surprises in the most unexpected places. Today, when collectors gather at auctions and classic car shows, the brightest spotlight usually falls on famous sports cars. Yet tucked quietly between them are the forgotten heroes that made those legends possible. Many visitors walk right past them without realizing the history hidden beneath their simple sheet metal. But experienced enthusiasts know exactly where to stop. Because true automotive history isn't written only by the loudest engines or the most expensive badges. It's written by the machines that forced everyone else to improve. Every unexpected victory by a sleeper car created a ripple effect across Detroit. Engineers returned to their drawing boards. Executives approved larger budgets, and performance became impossible to ignore. That relentless competition accelerated innovation at an incredible pace. In only a few short years, horsepower figures climbed higher than many experts had believed possible. And while each manufacturer wanted to claim victory, the real winner was the American driver, who suddenly had access to better engineering than ever before. The roads changed. Weekend cruises became more exciting. Highway travel became faster. Even everyday commutes carried the possibility of unexpected performance. Perhaps that's why these cars still fascinate people decades later. They remind us that brilliance often hides where nobody thinks to look. Their stories aren't just about engines, horsepower, or quarter-mile times. They're about imagination, persistence, and the courage to challenge conventional thinking. Every great innovation begins with someone asking a question others dismiss. And in Detroit during the late 1950s, those questions changed automotive history forever. The next time someone tells you that ordinary cars can't make extraordinary history, remember the quiet family sedans that forced America's greatest manufacturers to reinvent themselves. Because long before the muscle car era captured the world's attention, these forgotten machines proved that real performance doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it simply waits for the green light. The legacy of these overlooked machines stretches far beyond trophies or sales numbers. Their greatest achievement was proving that innovation doesn't always arrive wrapped in flashy styling. Sometimes, it quietly changes history from inside out. Today, collectors spend years searching for these rare survivors, not because they're the most glamorous cars ever built, but because they represent one of the boldest chapters in American engineering. Every restored engine, every polished badge, and every carefully preserved document tells the same story. Great ideas never truly disappear. They simply wait for the next generation to appreciate them. That's why these forgotten sedans deserve a place beside America's greatest performance legends. Without them, the horsepower revolution might have taken a very different path. The real lesson isn't about which company won the horsepower race. It's about how fierce competition inspired better engineering, better ideas, and better cars for everyone. From hidden V8 options to groundbreaking fuel injection, every breakthrough built upon the courage of engineers willing to challenge conventional wisdom. And that's exactly why these stories still matter today. They remind us that progress rarely begins with certainty. It begins with curiosity and the willingness to build something others believe cannot succeed. Perhaps somewhere in your own garage or at the next classic car show, you'll discover another forgotten machine hiding an unforgettable story beneath its hood. If this journey through Detroit's forgotten horsepower revolution surprised you, imagine how many more incredible automotive stories are still waiting to be rediscovered. History is filled with hidden legends. Sometimes they're buried inside forgotten factories. Sometimes they're parked quietly in someone's garage. And sometimes they're waiting for someone curious enough to tell their story again. So the next time you see an ordinary-looking classic sedan, don't judge it too quickly. Beneath that quiet exterior could be one of the cars that changed American performance forever. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed uncovering one of Detroit's greatest hidden stories, subscribe for more forgotten automotive legends that deserve to be remembered. The greatest automotive revolutions rarely happen overnight. They begin with one bold idea, one determined engineer, and one machine that refuses to follow the rules. Detroit's sleeper car revolution was exactly that kind of story. Those engineers never imagined their experiments would inspire generations of enthusiasts. They were simply trying to build better cars. History turned those experiments into legends. Long before the internet, their achievements spread by word of mouth. One unbelievable race became another unbelievable story, and soon every mechanic in America wanted to see these mysterious cars for themselves. That excitement helped shape an entirely new generation of performance enthusiasts. People who cared more about engineering than appearance and more about results than reputation. Some built faster engines. Others improved suspensions, transmissions, and braking systems. Every innovation pushed American performance one step further than the year before. The ripple effects reached far beyond Detroit. Racetracks, dealerships, neighborhood garages, and small-town mechanics all became part of the same performance revolution. Even today, many modern performance technologies follow the same philosophy those pioneers embraced decades ago. Deliver maximum performance without sacrificing everyday usability. That's why these forgotten automobiles deserve more than admiration. They deserve recognition as the machines that quietly transformed America's automotive future. Without their unexpected victories, manufacturers might never have pushed so aggressively toward better engineering. Competition became the fuel that powered innovation. Perhaps that's the real hero of this story. Not one specific company or one specific car, but the relentless pursuit of improvement that defined an entire generation of engineers. Every breakthrough reminded Detroit that yesterday's success guaranteed nothing tomorrow. Innovation had to continue, or someone else would quietly steal the spotlight. And maybe that's why these stories remain timeless. Because whether it's a classic V8 from 1957 or a modern performance machine, the greatest victories still belong to those willing to challenge expectations before anyone else does. As the 1960s arrived, the seeds planted by those forgotten sleeper cars had already begun to reshape America's automotive landscape. What started as a few daring engineering experiments was becoming an industry-wide movement. Every manufacturer now understood the same lesson. Performance wasn't a niche anymore. It had become one of the strongest reasons people chose one brand over another. Marketing departments quickly embraced the change. Advertisements no longer focused only on comfort and reliability. They celebrated horsepower, acceleration, and the excitement waiting behind every steering wheel. Families who once asked about fuel economy were now asking about engine options. Teenagers dreamed about quarter-mile times instead of simply owning their first car. The culture itself had changed. Weekend car meets, local drag strips, and neighborhood garages became gathering places where performance knowledge spread from one generation to the next. Many of the greatest ideas weren't invented inside corporate boardrooms. They came from mechanics, racers, and passionate enthusiasts constantly searching for a better solution. That partnership between manufacturers and enthusiasts pushed innovation even faster. Every race, every repair, and every experiment revealed another opportunity to improve. Soon, America wasn't simply building faster automobiles. It was building a performance identity unlike anything the world had ever seen. Looking back, it's remarkable how much influence those quiet sleeper cars truly had. Without demanding attention, they permanently raised expectations for every performance vehicle that followed. Today, collectors don't admire them simply because they're rare. They admire them because each one represents a turning point. Proof that courage and creativity can outperform reputation. Every polished bolt, every handwritten blueprint, and every restored V8 reminds us that history is shaped by people willing to question accepted limits. And perhaps that's the most enduring lesson of all. The greatest innovations rarely arrive with the loudest introduction. More often, they begin quietly, waiting for someone brave enough to recognize their potential before the rest of the world does. More than 60 years have passed since those remarkable machines first challenged Detroit's biggest names. Yet their influence remains visible every time an ordinary-looking car surprises everyone with extraordinary performance. Modern enthusiasts may call them sleepers, stealth builds, or hidden performance cars. But the philosophy remains exactly the same. Never reveal everything at first glance. Every unexpected victory on a quiet back road, every stunned expression at a stoplight, and every underestimated sedan carries a small piece of that original Detroit spirit. Perhaps that's why these forgotten automobiles continue inspiring builders around the world. They remind us that intelligence often defeats expectation, and careful engineering can overcome raw reputation. The Rambler Rebel, the Chevrolet Delray, the Plymouth Fury, the Studebaker Golden Hawk, and the fuel-injected Corvette each told a different story. Together, they told one unforgettable chapter in American automotive history. They competed fiercely, inspired relentlessly, and forced one another to become better. That relentless competition created innovations still appreciated by drivers more than half a century later. History often celebrates the loudest winners, but the true pioneers are sometimes the quiet innovators whose influence spreads far beyond their own era. And maybe that's the most powerful lesson hidden beneath every one of these hoods. Greatness doesn't always demand attention. Sometimes it simply waits for the right moment to prove itself. So the next time you see an ordinary classic sedan parked quietly in the corner of a car show, take another look. You may be standing in front of one of the machines that quietly reshaped American performance forever. Because the greatest stories aren't always painted in the brightest colors or wrapped in the most glamorous designs. Sometimes they're written in steel, horsepower, and the courage to challenge conventional thinking. Thank you for joining this journey through one of the most fascinating chapters in American automotive history. If you enjoyed uncovering the forgotten legend behind Detroit's horsepower revolution, subscribe for more incredible stories hidden beneath the chrome, the steel, and the engines that changed the world.